Welcome back to the channel, guys. I was having a look at the map today, just trying to decide where I was going to go for a ride. I decided I was going to head out to the country, out towards the wheat belt, and that reminded me of a really good story I want to share with you guys today. It's the Great Emu War of 1932. It's a really interesting story. It's going to be a nice country ride as well, so stick around, guys. Returning soldiers were given plots of land to farm by the Australian government, like the ones here behind me. The deal was that they would farm the land, they could pay off their farms to the government and supply Australia with as much wheat and wool as they possibly could. Here's what the government and the news at the time had to say about the situation.
These are some of the unfortunate farmers whose wheat crops have been trampled down by hordes of emus, but they're hopeful of getting rid of the pest at last. They've never used this sort of scarifier before, but things are desperate, and it's war to a finish this time. The scouts of the advancing army have keen eyesight, and in order to get close to the main body, our lads have to do some real stalking, with the enemy watching events through their periscopes, raised up over the heads of corn. Now they're retiring, off at 40 miles an hour. It seems the tables are turned, and there'll be no more damage done here for many a day to come.
Nothing could be further from the truth. This is what really happened. So on the morning of November 2nd, 1932, it was a day like any other. The farmers arose, they had their cups of tea, put on their boots and headed out to work the land. For a while things were really good. Obviously these farmers knew what they were doing. They had bumper crops, crops were flourishing, people were paying off their debts, and everyone was happy. Little did they know, three things were about to happen, one of which would see them go down in history for all the wrong reasons. First thing that happened is the world was still adjusting. Because of that, wheat prices started to plummet. This was obviously a problem for the farmers, but nothing they hadn't seen before. They would just store some away for a rainy day and wait for the prices to go up. The second thing that happened was there was a massive drought. The last thing that happened is because of this drought, it drove a flock of emus heading straight for West Australian crops and dams. One of the farmers noticed a massive plume of dust up on the horizon and the pounding of 40,000 emu feet. It would have sounded like battle drums in the distance. And to a battle-hardy soldier, this can only mean one thing. We're about to go to war. Sure enough, up on the horizon was a battalion of emus barreling down on the farmers' crops. They were helpless to do anything. This is a bird that's 6 foot tall. There's literally nothing you can do but sit there and watch as these emus barrel through your property, leaving a wake of destruction. These men, being veterans of war, knew exactly what to do. When your forces are overwhelmed like this, there's only one thing you can do: call for reinforcements. And that's exactly what they did. They got hold of the government, their governors, premiers. They sent letters to the highest of government. It was Joseph Lyons at the time. Together with Joseph Lyons, the Prime Minister, and the Army Commander, Sir George Pearce, he ordered soldiers with machine guns to advance on the emus. He would later adopt the name the Minister of the Emu War. Truckloads of soldiers would start to arrive on these farms, bringing with them long rifles and also heavy machine guns like the Lewis machine gun. Australian soldiers would start to position themselves in certain places around the fields. They would be up on the hills with their 303 rifles. They also had the Lewis machine guns mounted to old Model T Fords. This was supposed to be the perfect ambush. Unfortunately for them, and as they were about to find out, the emus are a really cunning bird and they were not going to go down without a fight. As these soldiers advanced on the emu flocks, they started to spread bullets anywhere they could. These birds were running and darting and zigzagging everywhere. They weren't making it easy for these soldiers to shoot them, and these were targets that they definitely weren't used to shooting at. It was just randomly spray bullets everywhere. And just hope, in all the chaos, they may clip a bird or two. During this first advance there were a few birds taken down, but they are a really cunning bird like I said, so they learnt pretty quick. They swiftly retreated back to a distance that were just outside the range of these Lewis machine guns. So this went on. The birds would come in, they'd trample whatever they wanted, they'd take whatever they wanted, they'd smash through fences, drink the water in the dams, destroy all the crops. And basically these farmers and these battle-hardened soldiers were helpless to do anything about it. They just couldn't kill these birds. One of the commanders at the time even stated that these birds take on machine gun fire like German tanks. They just couldn't take them down. Even heavily wounded birds didn't even slow down even a little bit. These birds would just keep on charging. They just couldn't take them down, no matter how hard they tried. So as I saw in the beginning, there was camera footage of the whole operation. That was ordered by the army and the government at the time. Basically they wanted to showcase the might of the Australian army to the entire world. Needless to say, at this point it was starting to become a bit of an embarrassment. These soldiers that were hardened on the battlefield, they were just utterly destroyed. They were looking like idiots, and the Australian government knew it, and so did the army. So as swiftly as the operation started, it was ordered to stop. They were just going through way too much ammunition. It was noted that between 200 and 500 birds were culled. They barely took a dent out of the flock of emus. So this was a total embarrassment. They were told to pack up. All the boxes of bullets were put on trucks, apart from the odd one or two, I'm pretty sure, but were sent back to the armory in Canberra. The soldiers went back to the army, and the farmers were left to deal with this problem on their own. The only thing that stopped these hoarding emus was the fact that rain started to fall again, and these emus migrated to where the food and water was. Ultimately this would spell defeat for the Australian army. After the dust settled, the emus won. So there we go guys, there's the story of how the emus won the Great Australian Emu War. I hope you enjoyed it guys, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe as well if you haven't subscribed already. I'm going to get back on the road. It's nice country roads out here, the weather's nice, the temperatures dropped, so I'm going to enjoy the ride back home.